Welcome to the Rex Andrews Show. Excited to have you here today with us. As always, if you are a new listener, we're glad you found us. Welcome to the program. If you're a returning listener, thank you. You've helped us drive the podcast into one of the fastest growing podcasts in the world. And that's pretty exciting because there's more than 1 million podcasts out there. Always a little bit of house cleaning. Don't forget to subscribe, no matter what platform you're on. If you don't like the platform you're on, try another one. We're on 23 different podcast distribution apps. We are also on all the major social media platforms. And of course, what I always recommend to do is come to the show website, rexandrewshow.com, where you can see the bios of our guests, including the one for today, previous guests, and everybody we have in the lineup, plus some fun things that we're doing. All right. I'm really excited about our guest here today because we get all kinds of interesting professionals and people that are doing really accomplished things with their lives. And I'm excited to talk about and learn his story and understand how he got to where he is today. Very well respected and published author. He's the world's #1 authority in trust-based selling. So that's pretty interesting. We're going to talk about that quite a bit. He's the CEO of Unlock the Game. So I'd like to welcome to the show, and I'm sure I'm cutting short his bio here, but we're going to have some time to talk about that. Welcome to Ari Galper. Ari, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic. How are things down under?
Pretty good. You probably caught the accent. I'm from the U.S. originally, from California.
Okay.
Been in Sydney for 20 years, so the Americans don't seem to lose their accent much. So, but so far so good.
So far, so good. I was going to say, you're not calling me mate very much. Or I did an interview with a great guy the other a week or so back, the bucket list guy. And boy, I tell you, he is Australian to the core. He was great.
Yes.
So fantastic. All right. So, Ari, we like to do this as our listeners could be in front of a computer or doing other things on their phone. Yeah. Real quick, in case they want to follow along, how would they get in touch with you online? So they can follow along and look at your stuff while we're talking today?
Well, the best thing is to go to www.unlockthegame.com. Okay. It's where they can access to a free overview there. And then also a LinkedIn. You can connect with me there as well and connect directly with me also on the socials. But LinkedIn is where I'm usually active. Yep. And then, of course, just unlockthegame.com. You can learn more about what we do there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. All right. So on our show, we're always talking human stories. You know, everybody thinks overnight successes are overnight, which is rare. Everybody thinks that people are born into some special spot in the world, which is rare. So we always like to learn about people. And I always say that life is too short for so many interests, or basically I say it the other way around is too many interests for only one lifetime, and just around the corner is another discovery. So today I want to talk about discovery where you came from. So I'd like to have you dial back a little bit for us. Take us back to your childhood, because a lot of who we are is based on a lot of our experiences from our youth and growing up. So where were you born? What was your family like? Did you have siblings? What did your parents do for work? What types of sports or activities or interests did you do? Then let's hopscotch a little bit through your education so people understand there. And then let's make some hops across the river to find out how you got to today, your books and the things you focus on.
Sure. Well, originally I was born in San Diego. My mother's from South America, actually from Peru. So grew up with Spanish in my house. My dad's from Boston. Had a sister, grew up middle class, California. And, I was a basketball guy growing up as a kid, and pretty straightforward upbringing. But I will tell you that there were some challenges in the household growing up as a child where there was someone in our house who there was a time where I wasn't able to say my opinion, tell my truth, and had to suppress back what I wanted to say sometimes to not disrupt the other person's or get them upset. So in a way, I had to really learn to learn how to tell my truth. And I'm sure people can relate to this. When people growing up, you have a dominant figure sometime who doesn't always want to hear your opinion or doesn't want to take away their attention to what they want to talk about. And then so as a kid, I was had to really hold myself back and not tell my truth. And I think that comes a lot from my work today. My work today is to kind of help people tell their truth and in a sales situation, and also to help myself be more comfortable telling the truth what I want to say. And I think that comes a lot of what we're talking about today is how do you build trust with people? How do you get your message across without triggering an alarm to go off and bombs to go off, and then they push back on you, get rejected, and chase them, and it gets dysfunctional real fast. So
Okay.
that's kind of a mission.
So you had to pull the reins up sometimes. Now, did you have siblings? Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have one sister, lives in California. We were really close growing up there. Spending a junior year abroad in the Middle East with my UCLA 1-year program in Israel. I was there for a year as a student. And then I got my first job working in Atlanta at UPS, the corporate office there.
Wow.
And I remember back then it was very competitive to get a job there as a sales trainer. And so I developed a little mini resume, a business card that flips open, has a resume inside the business card. It kind of flips.
Yeah.
And I mailed that into the head of training there, and he got his attention. He called me back. It was great. That's how I got my first job. He's like, "Hey, I like your mini resume." So that kind of kicked off my career from there.
Well, it's funny when you mentioned when your first job out of school was at UPS. I think most people are thinking you're chucking boxes in a warehouse somewhere or driving one of those brown trucks, visiting neighborhoods.
Well, I did I got a master's degree in what's called instructional technology, educational technology, how to learn to teach people things and content. So I had a degree in that and some experience doing it. So I was able to go right into a training job directly.
Nah, just giving you a little bit of hard time there.
Sure.
Now, what type of sports well, you said you were a basketball guy.
Basketball and baseball, yeah, pretty much.
Okay, pretty much basketball,
being
baseball.
A tall guy, yeah.
Okay, you're tall then?
Yeah, 6'2".
6'2". Okay, great. So it's sort of a normal back, Southern California upbringing.
Yeah, pretty much. Slower days back then. I did remember there was a recession came, and after I left school, I had to get this job. So California was hit pretty hard. So I packed up my car without a job, and I drove my car across the whole country to Georgia, Atlanta. Okay. That was a hot area at the time for singles and job opportunities. So I packed up my car, said my goodbyes to my family, and it took me 5 days to drive from California through Texas. Texas was a long drive all the way to Atlanta. Stayed with a relative there, knocked on doors, and got my first job and kind of started my career there.
So how long were you at UPS? And it seems like you were in sales training then, right?
About 5 years, developing sales training for the whole company, the sales force. Exactly.
So how was it like working at a giant international corporation like UPS?
Well, it was great. They had a great culture, very team oriented, had a great boss who was really mentoring me. And it had a good reputation in town. So I felt kind of proud being working for a big company. And they had really nice offices. So I thought it was great, for a first opportunity to really be in a big organization like that and to learn how it works. So it was great.
Fantastic. Again, it's just that old goofy perception is, they don't need sales. People just drop boxes to them, right? They stop by the UPS store.
Yeah, no, they launch new products all the time. They have new concepts to teach, new behaviors to change, constantly upgrading the skills of the team. So when they launch a new product, I would develop the materials that would go out to the sales force, not the marketing pieces, the salespeople. So it was kind of, how do you implement, what words do you say, what languaging do you say to help the customer understand the new offering? So I had to work hard to figure out what languaging to use to cut through the noise so the customer understood what the new offering was in a complex world. So it took a lot of skills and effort to think about that in advance. I spent a lot of time with the marketing people, salespeople, really forcing them to tell me what they wanted to say and turn those words into words that actually meant something in the field.
Okay. Now, when you were down in Atlanta, did you spend any time in the Buckhead district?
That's where I lived, actually, right nearby in Sandy Springs, which is nearby there.
Yep.
Had a condo and did the whole single scene. It was great.
Yeah, what a fun town. Dallas has a very similar single situation there. So it's a great vibe down there. It's a good place.
Totally, great vibe.
If people haven't been there, they don't even understand what we're talking about. That's for sure.
Exactly.
Okay, so what happened after UPS? What was your next stop?
So then I actually decided to go back home to California, and I got recruited by Qualcomm, which is a very high-tech company, chips and all that, CDMA back then, cell phones. And so we got into their sales training HR department, they were growing really fast. Like I was in charge of orientation for all the new hires. They had like 100 new people a quarter. And I
Wow.
would do the orientation event, welcoming all the new employees. And back then they were just growing so fast. They had this incredible campus. They had a pool, they had tennis courts. I said, welcome to Club Med of Qualcomm, you know, and
Yeah.
it was so fun to talk about what the opportunities was, learning and who your mentors would be. And that was kind of my job, was to do that. Then I moved to a division called OmniTrax, which was a tracking of the trucks that
How funny.
and is working in there for a long time and training as well.
You know, we have some common backgrounds. I used to work in the software business, and we sold to full load refrigerated carriers, and they were all adopting the OmniTrax at that time. I worked with CR England, Swift, you know, JBS, all the big companies out there. We did systems with that. So yeah, that's interesting and fascinating technology. It still is. I mean,
it is.
Very that similar. Was the really early days of GPS oriented technology.
It's true. It's true.
How funny. Because I was going to mention, well, OmniTrax, because I was part of Qualcomm. Wow.
Yeah.
So how long were you at OmniTrax?
A couple of years. So I worked right there in the headquarters building where they had the big monitoring screens of all the trucks moving around.
Yeah.
And I worked with the VP of sales there. So I was there. And then from there, I moved to a company called Website Story. They were one of the first online website tracking software tools to track website behavior through websites. Like it's now called Google Analytics, but all the data of the movement of behaviors throughout the site, not who they were, but their behavior as a whole. So they could see how many visitors came to a homepage, how many went to a shopping cart, how many abandoned. Now it's pretty ubiquitous. Back then it was like a new offering. So I was ground floor. I became the sales manager there at 18 people underneath me. We're a fast growing business. And that's where my story comes into play now, that kind of lends itself to the next step, which is how I launched and created my whole revolution around trust-based selling, what I call Unlock the Game, which is kind of the story coming up.
Now, were you there when Google bought them then?
Yeah, they got bought by a company before that, and then Google bought them 2 companies later.
Okay.
So it's a bit of an evolution.
A little bit of evolution.
But I left, started my own business before they were bought.
Okay, fantastic. I would just always questions because if you're ever around tech, it's like I've had a 35-year in tech, and only 3 of the companies I ever worked for are even still in business because they were all acquired or absorbed or all that kind of stuff. So fantastic. Okay, so what made you decide to start your own company?
Right. So here's a story behind that. So I was a sales manager in that company. I managed 18 people underneath me, and all the large opportunities came my way, the big leads. So this one contact came across my desk. You recognize the name, big company. And I called him back. We had a great conversation. He agreed to a conference call and a demo to show him our product. So, and if I close this one sale, it would double the revenue of the company in one sale. That's how big this was. It was like a big whale opportunity. So the day finally came, was Friday at 4 o'clock, I remember, and I went to the conference room with my CEO, a closed door behind me. The whole team's in the window trying to listen in. I said, guys, move back. And I closed the blinds so I could stay calm and relaxed. And so in the room was a long conference table. And on the table was a speakerphone. The other ones with the 3 legs on it, the corporate ones, 3 legs, kind of spaceship looking speakerphones. So I hit the dial tone. I dialed the number that he gave me, and the phone rang. And he picks it up. And he says, hello. And I said, hey, how's it going? Good. John, great. We connected. He says to me, look, Ari, so glad you're here. Let me now introduce to you who's with us on the call in the conference room here. I was like, oh, wow. I didn't know this must be there.
Right.
The next thing I hear is, my name is John. I'm CEO. I was like, wow, CEO, the whole company's there? That's incredible.
Yeah.
My name is Mike. I'm head of IT. Head of IT? Wow. And my name's Julie. I'm head of marketing. Head of marketing. I mean, everyone on this call was a decision maker. I mean,
wow.
This is the call. You hope to get it as often as possible. They're all on this one call. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it, So my boss was like shocked as well. And then I stayed very calm. And then I introduced myself, explained what we do. And then I began to give a live demo over the web of a sample we did on their website in advance to collect all the data to show them what it looks like to see inside the statistics in real time.
Right.
So I started showing this to them, clicking around, and I started hearing these noises on the phone call, like, wow, this is great. This is amazing. They start asking me all kinds of questions. How does it work? How does technology work? How do we install it? How do we use this? How do we use that?
Sure.
Of course, I was competent. I had all the answers. I was answering the questions I was taught in sales to build rapport, answer objections. I was doing everything I was taught to do by the sales gurus. I had the CDs in my car at the time, books at home, went to
Sure.
seminars like you probably went to, and was doing my thing. And they were happy. There was so much chemistry on this phone call, Rex. It was like a love fest on the phone.
Sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Been there many times.
It's just like, this is so good. This could not be better than this. So the call it was amazing. An hour goes by, the call comes to an end, and my guy says to me, Ari, we love this. This is amazing. Look, give us a call in a couple of weeks, follow up with us, and we'll move this thing forward. I was like, oh, thank you, God. Well,
That's
this
right.
is like a dream come true. I was so excited. My boss is like, thumbs up. Nice job. He's in the corner of the room on his cell phone, calling for the car he wants to buy with the bonus money he's already planning to get with the sale, And so I say my goodbyes. I take my arm and I reach for the middle of the table for the speakerphone to hit the off button with my thumb. As I'm reaching for the off button, by complete accident, now it's a divine intervention, my thumb hit the mute button instead of the off button. They were right next to each other. And I kind of hit the wrong button by accident, and a small click happened, and they thought I hung up the phone.
Oh, no.
In that split second, a voice inside of me from above said, Ari, go to the dark side.
Yeah.
Be a fly in the wall.
See what happens.
Go where no one's ever gone before in sales and listen in just for a couple of seconds. You got nothing to lose. It was like the angel over here says to me, Ari, hang up the phone. The devil says, just listen in.
Right.
So who do you think that won that battle between the angel and
the devil did on this time, right?
That's right. So I pulled my thumb back just for a couple seconds. They started talking amongst themselves, thinking I had left the call.
Right.
Now, what would you expect them to be saying as I listened? And what would you imagine they probably would have said? What would you imagine?
Well, being in tech, they might have started saying they couldn't believe it. That might be one route. The other one might be, well, can we build this on our own? The other one might say, they're full of crap. This is smoke and mirrors. And the other angle might be, we love it. Let's do it.
Yeah, well, that's reasonable. Let me tell you what I heard word for word. I'll never forget it. That's why we're here today.
Yeah.
What they said was this. They said, we're not going to go with him. Keep using him for more information.
Yep.
And make sure we shop someplace else cheaper.
Oh, my goodness.
Knife in heart twist. Rex, I was in a state of shock.
Right.
I snapped out of it. I hit the off button. I turned my chair, looked at the wall in front of me, and said to myself, what did I do wrong? I did everything I was taught to do by the gurus, the books, the seminars, the videos. I built rapport. I problem solved. I offered a demo. I answered objections. I did everything I was taught to do. And then I asked myself, why were they afraid to tell me the truth? And I realized that somewhere along the way, it has become socially acceptable not to tell the truth to people who sell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's okay to say things like, sounds good.
Yeah.
Send me information. We're definitely interested without having any intention of buying at all.
Wow. You just hit a funny bone with me, because being someone who's been in sales, and I've sold at Fortune 100 down. Okay. And I have been through so many of those meetings. Now, I started my sales career in 1987. So I've been at this, the long time, longer than I ever want to count. And it's so easy to fall into that trap. It is absolutely so easy. And the thing I hated about tech is they'd shine you on like that all the time, because they just wanted to pump your head. They just wanted to get, competitive information. And I never really stopped to think all the time, because I was a good salesperson. I was always tops wherever I was, but I had never really thought about, what we're talking about here today is that trust factor until much, much later in my career.
Well, it's not just IT, it's every single industry has the same problem across the entire sales industry. And I realized that and I had the big idea, and this became the whole revolution I created. I realized that there is an invisible river of hidden pressure that flows underneath every conversation you have with somebody pre-sale.
Mhm.
Now you can't see it and they can't see it, but it's there. And unless you're skilled at removing the pressure from the process and building trust with people from the beginning, they won't feel comfortable telling you the truth. They'll always not tell you the truth, to hold back from you. So that became my whole mindset shift, what I call unlock the game, which is you have to let go of your goal of the sale to build trust with people, for them to feel comfortable telling you the truth of where they stand, so you don't waste your time chasing
Yeah.
ghosts for the
Yeah.
entire rest of your career.
Yep, that's for sure. So, what do you think causes, and I know you're going to have a great answer to this, that reluctance for people to tell the truth? Why do so many people, why are they afraid and they just shine people on? What's the core of that?
It's because people have been so conditioned to being sold the old way,
Yep.
pressured, chased, pursued, with the only agenda of the sale, that the other person feels they can't trust anybody anymore who's selling something, because they think their only agenda is theirs. And that's the whole shift that we teach. We teach letting go of your agenda 100% and focusing in only in their issues and their problems, creating a vulnerability of trust with them, where they feel comfortable telling you where they stand, so they know either way you'll help them.
Yeah, I had a mentor, and he was one of the early executives at IBM. In fact, he just recently passed away a few weeks ago, Laurie Edwards. And he was always a stickler to make sure that we as technical people were very technically proficient as far as salespeople. So you couldn't be the empty suit. No longer could you be the golf guy and the donuts guy and the take people out to dinner guy. You actually had to be able to, like you say, develop that trust. And so I always learned early on from him is that selling is really based a lot in education. It's not in techniques. It's not in anything else. Is, well, what do I have to teach you to trust me that you can make a multi-million-dollar decision? Because unfortunately, I don't know if it's through the bad movies that we've had, Glenn Gary, what was that one? Glenn Gary.
Gary Ross, yeah.
Yeah. Where everybody just thinks that you're like a siding salesperson or a used car salesperson when you're in sales. And sales is a very rewarding and very financially rewarding career if it's done right.
The problem is that stereotype
of
the negative salesperson is so ubiquitous that even though you may not be that person, it doesn't matter. They attach you to that image. Even if you're an accountant, a consultant, a financial advisor who's not like that, it doesn't matter. Any behavior that you use, any word or phrase or behavior that you will talk about today that associates you with that stereotype immediately cancels you out.
Exactly. Because nobody wants to be sold, do they? No. Okay, so you had that aha moment. You're sitting there at the conference room. The air is just taken out of the hot air balloon. You're having that effigy. What did you go ahead and just go home and start writing content? Did you vacillate on this for a while? What was the whole decision process like?
I quit my job.
Really, that day?
That next 2-week notice, I decided, you know what? This is such a massive dysfunctional process, and it's impacting so many people being dehumanized right now. And it related back to me growing up when I felt like I had to suppress what I wanted to say, the truth. I realized that my mission was to help millions of people out there in business who are still selling and getting rejected, chasing ghosts and wondering why the whole process is so dehumanizing and why they're being rejected. And I want to help people that way. My dad was a psychologist, actually.
Okay.
And he also made it his mission to help people with a lot of personal problems. And I realized, like him, this is a personal problem between two people. It's a relationship problem and it's dysfunctional.
Okay.
And I have an intervention that can fix that. And if you can build trust with people in sales, you can build trust with people in your personal lives, your husbands, wives, kids. It goes across all communication.
Sure. Well, that's the old adage, everything is sales, relationships, raising your kids. How many times did I have to sell my kids to help them do something that they weren't sure about? No, I just care. Okay. So how old were you when this happened? What year?
Oh, gosh. I don't know the year, but maybe late 20s.
Late 20s. Wow. Pretty bold. That's a pretty bold move for late 20s. Were you married? Were you single?
I was single at the time, and I was done with where I was working. And I said, you know what? I've got to build out a solution for this. and I called it Unlock the Game because it
Okay.
was unlocking the sales game everybody hated so much.
Oh yeah.
That was the premise behind it. And
Yep.
then I literally went online, and that was early days, by the way, internet. And I had
Sure.
an ebook I wrote for 20, it was 20 pages, and it was $1 a page is what I sold it for, $20. And it was how to sell with trust and not chase ghosts anymore.
Okay. So wow. So you got busy creating your content right away. So early
Yep.
on in the internet, you were already selling copies of your ebook.
Yep.
Were you successful with that? How did that work?
Well, I did. I got quite a few people buying it. Then I had a workshop locally, and then I added a little live chat box at the time to the
Sure.
web. It's very innovative back then, and it said "Chat with Ari now." And I was literally me behind the machine. I didn't have any staff. It was just me. People would click on the button. They go, "Is this really Ari, the guy who wrote the book?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, it's me." And they'd be like, "Well, how do you have time to be talking to people like on your website right now?" And I said to him, "What else should I be doing? But talking to people like you on my website who wants to buy my book." It's like, and next thing I know, they'd be like, they bought the book. I was like, "What? I didn't sell any. I didn't try to do anything. And they're buying. This is amazing. People are buying my product without trying to sell them anything. Just the human connection was enough for them to feel comfortable ordering." And from that, I started to build out all my programs to how to build trust in your pre-sale process and all mediums, essentially connect to someone at a deep level that does not feel like that you're just trying to sell them something.
Okay. So just curiosity question comes to my head. You started this business off. How in the world did you make the hop down to Australia?
Well, I met my wife online at the time.
Okay.
She was from Sydney, working in Los Angeles. We met on a dating site at the time. It's pre-swiping, just the
Okay.
whole dot, like the text with a photo kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I wrote down I do Latin dancing. She likes Latin dancing, so she emails me, and we started communicating over the phone. We dated for 6 months in California. And she said to me, "Why don't you come visit my family in Sydney, Australia?" I was like, "That's Sydney. That's so far on the airplane, you know." Us Americans don't want to go that far. For them, it's no big deal. For us, we're kind of like,
Yeah.
so I'm like, okay. So went out there and met her family, just fell in love with the country. And we got actually engaged and married in Sydney about 18 years ago. And we got married. Then we moved back to California to grow my business there. Then we had a gift into our lives. And 6 months later, our son Toby was born. And after about a day after he was born, the doctors told us that he had Down syndrome, Toby. And we didn't know how to react to that. Then we realized we had a gift on our hands. I don't know if you know anybody who has Down syndrome, but they're beautiful kids and adults. They have the gift of transparency and openness and love. And I wrote a book about him called Lessons from Toby that impacted my life about how he was. And we moved to over here because my wife had a big family. I had a small family, more support for him. So we packed up our bags, moved to Australia to give more support. And we landed here for 18 years now. Now he's almost 17. He's 17 now. He's doing amazingly well. I wrote a book about him. He's the mascot for the business now because his view of the world of love and connecting and no hidden agenda is my core philosophy behind our trust-based selling approach.
Well, I do know a few families close by in church circles and stuff that do have Downs kids. One of the young ladies is in her 30s.
Yep.
But she's the most sweet individual, just heavenly spirits. They're not tainted. They're not skeptical.
They're pure.
They're pure. It's a pure human soul. Now,
correct.
Other portions of their body aren't working. Okay, we get that, right? But their spirits are as pure as you can find. And so I just love Down stories and know several. One of my college friends has a daughter that's there, and it's just a special world. And people, unfortunately, don't know enough about it. Unfortunately, people look down their nose sometimes at that. But wow, what a blessing it really is, because they're genuinely sweet spirits. Just amazing.
Well, he's the model that we need to become.
Okay.
And that's what I teach people in our program is how to be pure in your soul when you connect with people. So they don't feel like you have a hidden agenda. You're being present with them. You connect with them. You focus on their problems. You don't bring your agenda to the conversation. If you can make that mindset shift, you're in a magical place. People will trust you immediately that's what I call the one call sale. I've got a model where you can make a sale on one phone call without chasing people, without closing, without proposals, if you can be pure in your process where you're focusing in on their problems only. And it's like a doctor-patient relationship where you're the doctor to the patient and you really want to care about them. We can go into that later on, but that's kind of the whole framework that I've created.
Well, I kind of want to go there real quick because that's my mind is wandering as someone who's been probably like you. I've been through every type of sales training class you can think of. Miller Hyman and Tom Hopkins and Tony Robbins stuff and IBM's courses and strategic selling. I could go on for probably a half hour naming off all the new approaches to sales. And
I get a lot of refugees from this program. I call them refugees, is what I call them.
Refugees. Okay. So when you're building the trust on what you're teaching, and this has just come from a practical standpoint, are you still, let's say we're having that initial call and I'm practicing what you're teaching. I'm assuming I'm still going through some exploratory type questions to uncover problems, right? Is that
the first stage is unpacking their issues, and I call it going down the iceberg, because at the top of the iceberg, they'll tell you what their problems are, but only at the surface level.
Right.
And what happens is, if you don't know my methodology, when you hear someone telling you a problem at the surface level, we're conditioned to provide them to react to that and say, hey, I can help you with that. Or let me ask you a couple more questions, and then we kind of stop 2 levels deep and kind of go into the answers. See, when they tell you what they actually need is not what they actually want. And so our methodology is that you do not assume what they're telling you is true. Okay. You unpack it 5 levels deep to get to what I call the truth of what they actually need. It's like a patient saying to a doctor, my shoulder hurts. And he says, let me take a look. Where? Here? Oh, right there. Let me take a look. Oh, there's some bruising there. You need an x-ray and ultrasound to really understand what the core of the problem here is. I recommend you do that right away and then come back. We'll look at saying, so it's going way beneath what the problem is, because in most cases, the customer will not want to amplify and tell you what they're, because it's too painful to admit the truth. So your job is to go down the layers of their problem to get them to own the problem before they want to fix it.
Okay. So again, I'm just running through some of the techniques I've been taught over the years. We're having probably a sales therapy question here.
That's
going
correct.
on.
Yeah.
I went through the Neil Rackham's spin selling. Okay, situation, problem, implications, needs, payoff. Do you take people down to where what the real issue? I mean, sure, I have a problem. I'm not getting XYZ process fast enough, and my solution should solve that. But what's the real problem? I mean, so am I still trying to dig somebody down to what the personal issue really is, and then if you solve that, you're what that payoff is? I mean,
well, you want to amplify the issue for them to understand the full breadth of it, and then ROI the losses of not solving it.
Right. Okay.
Then you want to ask them, is this a priority for you to solve once and for all, or do you want to keep it as it is and live with it? I'm okay either way.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I can see that, because again, I was taught that, I used to literally, this is how bad it was. When I first learned like that Neil Rackham spin, I had it on my fingers. So I used to count. So SPIN, I'd roll my fingers back. So I would be sitting there in front of somebody, and I'd open up my thumb when I would talk about the situation. Then I would talk in P, and I'd have a next finger open, and I would just go down my hand, and hopefully that I had enough cognitive skills to get through the whole conversation to get me where I was going.
The problem with that model is that if they don't trust you, they're not going to tell you anything.
Right. Okay. So without giving away your programs, what's the first step of getting somebody's trust?
Well, you have to be able to know in advance what the core issues are in your market. You have to know what the core problems are. So when they say to you on the phone, one of my issues is X, you have to know in your mind already where to take that down 6 levels deep.
Sure.
So if you said to me, Ari, one of my issues is my sales are down, for instance. My next response to that will be, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. And then I'm going to just tell you all the reasons why I hurt.
It's going to open up a whole world which no one's ever gone before, even yourself. You'll start to express the problem, and I'll say, well, walk me through what's the impact of that for the last 6 months? Where are you at in terms of your losses of the sales so far? Now he's going to a place even he has not confronted yet. The truth of the impact of the totality of the problem. It is sales therapy. If your potential client does not own the problem in its entirety, you're going to chase them. They're going to say, I'll think about it. And you'll play the numbers game the rest of your life.
Sure. So is that the most important step in your process then?
That's one of the main stages is the iceberg process, which is taking down the iceberg and then get them to see if they want to solve it or not. Now, if they want to solve it, then great. You've got somebody who's pretty much a good fit.
Okay.
Then you take them through what I see. The normal thing to say at that point is, well, great. Let me tell you how I can help you solve your problem.
Right.
And you start to pitch your services. That's the usual next step.
Yes, exactly.
But not in my world.
Okay.
You do not sell your solutions.
Okay.
They don't care about your solutions. All they're asking about the entire time in their brain is, do I trust him? Do I trust him? Do I trust him? They don't care about your software, your tools, your products, that's your world.
Yeah.
So what you do is, and we teach this, is you create what I call a sales roadmap.
Okay.
Which is a visual tool that lays out the process that you use to solve their problem.
Okay.
And you sell the roadmap of your process. You do not sell your solution. So it's a bit of a mindset shift because our identity is who we are, what we sell. So if someone says, you're Rex, what do you do? Oh, I am X, because we've been taught to believe that we should be pitching our commercial all the time. Hey, here's what I do, but you know what? No one cares about that, especially your potential clients. What they care about is, are you the one to solve their problem? How you solve it, they don't care about. They'll pretend they care about that.
Sure.
Oh, Rex, tell me about what your solution's all about. We're shopping around for a tool right now to solve this problem. Great, let me tell you all about it.
Yeah, and then you show up and throw up, right? That's what the salesperson does.
We get seduced into, they tell us their problem. We provide the answers. People go, Ari, I'm already a problem solver. I already built trust with people. Oh, really? Give me a recording of your last call. Let me listen to it right now. And they give me the recordings. And I'm like, you hear them jump right in too early. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. You are jumping in prematurely to the conversation and offering your solution too early on. You're breaking all the rules of trust. Now, you're a nice guy. You listen pretty well. You're not pushing hard, but you're conditioning from the cult of selling. You're still programmed to jump in and offer an answer the minute you see a problem. And that's where you're losing everything.
Okay, so let's role play here for a second because I can't help myself, just being a sales addict that I am. If you're having a one-sided conversation with me, well, not one-sided, you're the salesperson doing it correctly. I'm the client. You're trying to establish that trust. You talked about selling me the process. Do you actually identify and say, hey, Rex, I'm going to take you through this process, or let me explain how we do this?
Yeah.
So what would that look like?
That's right. So what you say is that you say, well, first of all, you develop into a visual chart, into a tool.
Okay.
And you have it somewhere online on a website, like a link or something, like .com. So what you say is this, you say, look, is this a priority for you to solve or not? Right. They go, yes, it is. Okay. Great. Would it be helpful for you? Asking permission, you see? If I walked you through my framework and roadmap for how I help my clients solve the exact problems that you have, would that be helpful for you to see that?
Sure. Yeah, because that took away the sales pressure right there. Oh, he's just going to show me a process. Okay. All right.
This is void of all sales pressure. We stripped the whole thing out. That's why it's so pure.
Right.
And the whole time they're saying to themselves, this guy has not tried to sell me anything yet. He's not trying to jump. I like him. He's kind of different. He's sort of not doing what I'm used to hearing from people.
Sure.
The mere fact that you're not doing it the old way is trust building, because you're not selling. You're just diagnosing
Right.
like a doctor would.
Right. Okay. So let's unpack that a little further.
Sure.
Are you actually, how long of a sales map is this? I mean, is it a 5-step process? I mean, what does that look like when you're walking somebody
It's
through?
basically a visual tool from left to right, 4 or 5 bubbles that lays out your process. Very simple tool.
Okay.
A lot of people have them, but they're kind of too brochure looking ish and don't make sense. They're all messy, but
Sure.
we figured out a way to simplify them into a simple left to right visual tool. And you basically say, look, he says, yeah, sounds good. You say, look, go to www.com/roadmap and it'll come up in front of you and I'll walk you through it. They type it in on their phone, on their computer, and you hear them typing, and it pops up and they go, I see it. Great.
Okay, well, let's start over here in this first bubble, right?
Let me walk you through left. So phase 1 is deep. I'll walk you through what I just did for my financial advisor client of mine.
Okay, great.
So he was doing a 3-call process and converting 5% of all of his opportunities. Either discovery call, a data collection call, and hopefully onboarding call. And they would drop off somewhere in between and they'd say, I want to think about it. I said, no, are you nuts? It's crazy. That's how the industry does it. You got to interrupt all that. It's got to be down to 1 phone call. He goes, 1 phone call? But how do I build a relationship with somebody on 1 phone call? I said, you don't. I said, stop building relationships pre-sale. They're fake anyways.
Right.
It's all bullshit report. It's all manufactured. Everyone knows it's not real. Stop putting energy into relationship building. Trust building and relationship building are mutually exclusive.
Right.
You don't need that piece of the puzzle. Relationship building goes post-sale, not pre-sale.
Right.
That was a bomb in his brain. He's like, what? For 20 years, I was taught to spend time with people pre-sale to get to know them better. I said, well, if you want to wait a long time and hope you get the sale, great. But not in this day and age, man. They're gone in 3 seconds. They're shopping you. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, and in most cases, if you're going to a 3-call strategy, you're probably going to lose more than half of them by the second call. And if he's only closing 5%, he's not even effectively what he would have been classifying as building a relationship.
The average is, in most industries, if you're hitting 10, you're doing really, really well. 20 is amazing. My clients can hit 75%.
Wow. Because
they're not playing the sales game. They're just on 1 call. It's a fit or not a fit. They disengage. It's over. But there's no pressure to buy because it's all common sense. So when you walk them through, here's the model. So the first phase, I think, was called deep dive financial assessment. That was phase 1.
Okay.
Phase 1, we do a deep dive of your situation, look at your finances, look at your statements, look at all your current expenses, look at a feel for your income flow, identify all your roadblocks and what your goals are. We do that takes us a few weeks to do that, to really uncover everything and do it with field due diligence. Then phase 2 is we do what we call a financial planning phase, where we kind of map out your priorities, your timelines, where you're being overcharged in mutual funds, and identify all your hidden costs to really unpack all that into a plan. Phase 3 is where we execute and we monitor. We begin to really start making some changes, get some cash flow changes happening, get some real-time access to reporting, and so you feel in control of your finances towards your retirement plans. And that's that. And I think 3 phases that was. And I said that's my process. It's 3 phases. That's what we do. And the next question to them is, what are your thoughts on that roadmap process?
Okay. It's non-threatening, right? It's not threatening. It's just helping people understand this is what we walk you through.
You know what he was doing before?
He's
talking all about his services. Here's how that works. You put mutual funds and we get a percentage, and we look. I was like, are you kidding me? They don't care about how you run your sausage factory behind the scenes. They don't care about how you do They just care about, are you the one to solve their problem or not? Not
Right.
how you do the mechanics of what you do. That's your expert. They're not qualified to discern and decide how you do what you do. They're not the expert. You are. So stop trying to overwhelm them with your credibility, because credibility is commoditized.
Yeah.
The whole world's commoditized. You're being shopped against someone else. So trying to say, hey, we're different, good luck with that. The
Sure.
only way to win the game in this day and age in a commoditized world is not to differentiate on your solution, because you can't anymore.
No.
But the only way to do it is differentiate on your sales process as being different.
Okay. Makes a whole lot of sense. So if I'm hearing you right, then the process that you're going to walk somebody through when you're explaining your sales, your, I guess, buying process is a better way, your education process, that to build that trust, it's going to be different for each product, industry, services, right? Or are you thinking, no, it's going to be the same? Okay.
Go down the iceberg, unpack the problems in
Sure.
a deep way, so they
Right.
feel that you understand them.
Yep.
Find out if it's a priority, walk them through your roadmap, onboard them.
Okay. So I guess what I miscommunicated there. The roadmap will probably be different for each product.
Yes, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So it's a custom roadmap per person. That's in our
Okay, that
consulting
makes sense.
practice. We do that for people. We build the roadmaps. Yeah.
Now, are so many things are being sold through internet and online now. Do you teach and coach people how to help them position their marketing to help them do this, to build trust also?
Well, if it's pure e-commerce, like
Mhm.
click a button, shopping cart, order here,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no phone conversation,
Right.
there's not much you can do there.
Not much we can do there.
I mean, a few tweaks, but this really applies to if you are moving somebody online to an offline one-on-one conversation.
Okay.
That's
Fantastic.
our niche is conversion
Right.
in that scenario. Low volume, high price point professional services who aren't high volume, low price point, volume, commoditized businesses.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the courses and things you teach. Let's walk through those a little bit for our listeners. Okay. So I come to you now, Ari. I've got a broken sales department and they're not closing. What do you prescribe, I guess, through your programs?
At the moment, there's a couple options.
Okay.
If you want to do a Chinese menu, self-service, take your time, you want to learn the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
We have an entry point process through what we call the Mindset Club membership program. For $97 a month, you can access all my courses around trust-based writing, the one call sale. All my content for 20 years is in there in a repository, along with, I do 2 calls a month for people ask me questions on a Zoom call live. That's our entry point in for those who want self-service. Then there's the entrepreneurs, business owners, advisors who want to accelerate the speed, get it built quickly and get results fast. That's what we do, custom consulting one-on-one with myself and my team, where we actually quickly intercept and unpack it all and decipher it all and coach these folks on how to re-engineer their process to map to this, to strip out everything they're doing right now that says, hi, I'm here to sell you something.
Right.
I just finished a course called Trust-Based Writing, where I did a live workshop where people actually showed me on the screen their emails were saying, or their LinkedIn communications, their emails, and their ads. And I rewrote them from a trust perspective and flipped them backwards away from the pitch to the problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when people are engaging, sorry, my mind is going in a couple of places here. When somebody comes to you and they want the entrepreneur's course, you're also obviously customizing that, and I'm assuming that you're helping them write that process map, right? That's
correct. Yeah, we will develop, flush out the map, lay it out, coach them on how to language it, how to deliver it, and we have them. We give them recordings of the session so they can put it in their company as a permanent sales system. As they hire new people, it becomes a sales process that's permanent, and then they can use that to scale up from there.
Because the introduction of sliding down the iceberg and those aspects are probably a little easier for a lot of people to learn, but I'm assuming helping people understand their whole map and their whole process map, unpacking that, doing it correctly, and then helping people discuss that with somebody, that's probably the heavy lifting, right?
It is, but it's quite deceiving because the iceberg, everyone says to me, oh, I'm consultative. I ask questions.
Yeah, everybody
I
thinks
listen. Everyone thinks that they're already there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, okay, bring me one of your recorded calls. Let me hear the call. Every single person, they ask one or two questions about the problem,
Mm-hmm.
and they go right
into solving it.
They do not know how to build conscious trust, because listening is active, is passive. Hearing is active.
Correct.
They aren't skilled, don't know the training or the questions to ask to get to the point where the customer says to them, how can you help me?
Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm assuming you do this around the world, right?
Global clients all over the world via Zoom 24/7. We have a whole team, and we're really changing the whole construct of what selling is, because what's happening now is the world changed so much, but most companies still are using a 1980s, 1990s process that no longer works anymore. It's why they're playing the numbers game, chasing ghosts, getting a lot of, hey, I want to think about it. Let me process this. Let me get back to you. And they're wondering why their conversion is so low.
Oh, I just have to share a quick story with you. Last summer, I was asked to come in and do some consulting because I do mostly my day business is driving traffic to people's websites and stuff. And I was asked to come in and look at this company that sold home improvements. It was windows and siding. And I kind of struggled with that in the first place because I'm like, okay, windows and siding, but okay, they're paying the bill, so you go. So I went in there and I sat through, because I said, well, I want to see your processes. I want to, they were teaching 1986, 87 Tom Hopkins type sales technique stuff. And I looked at him and I'm like, how are you even selling anything? People don't fall for this stuff anymore. I mean, they were doing Ben Franklin's and just, this all this really bad stuff. And for those that are not sales geeks, okay, and geek is an affectionate term, a Ben Franklin is you take a piece of paper, draw it down a line down the middle, and you list all the reasons why you would and then you wouldn't, or benefits and drawbacks. And, these guys are doing that kind of stuff. And I'm like, how are you selling anything? And this was one of the most successful companies in that industry in this area. And I left, when I came back and was talking about a whole different approach to this, they were looking at me like I had two heads. I just couldn't even believe that people were still trying to sell that way.
Yeah. You'd be surprised that most business owners believe they don't understand the sale is lost or made in the actual conversations, not in the CRMs,
Nope.
Not in the spreadsheets, not in the number of calls they make, not in your product range. It's lost in the actual conversations. And that's the place most owners don't go. They don't record their calls. They don't listen, and they don't know what to look for because they're still conditioned as well. The old way, how they used to build the business. They haven't upgraded even themselves to the new age of how trust is created. So there's like this visible hole in their business they can't understand or see themselves because their paradigm is still into make that call, what's going on with the sales team, how come they're not productive, and they don't understand that it's a trust building issue, not another issue.
Right. Product knowledge will never win the sale. So it just really doesn't. Well, that's fascinating. I've been a geek and a self-proclaimed sales king forever. In fact, I have one of those little funny Far Side cartoons where the guy is on the boat and he's backing away from the Eskimos on the islands and all have refrigerators. And my kids are like, that's Dad. So, but this is fascinating to hear you talk about the trust and then be able to collapse a 3-call close into a one call. That's impressive. So how do people see this as building this trust-based, morphing these techniques over to your other communications in your life? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, funny you should mention that, because over the 20 years of doing this, I've had people call me and say, Ari, you saved my marriage. I was like, what? My wife and I were close to divorce, and I learned your model and your program and studied with your team. And I myself learned that I've been putting my agenda before her.
Right.
And I learned how to communicate for the first time by letting go and building trust with her. And now she's hearing me for the first time. And now we re-engage again. Now we're communicating properly. Now we're married. We're back to our good marriage again. That was happy again. You saved my marriage by teaching me how to communicate with trust. And we call it trust-based communication. Because this really isn't just about selling. This is trust-based communication. This applies to everything you do every day personally, negotiation, team building, kids, vendors. It's all how you communicate and build trust with people. We have a program around this called the Mindset Academy, where we teach people how to stay centered with certain principles around being present with people, listening deeply, letting go of your agenda, so people feel from you that you actually care about them, because people don't feel in currently that others care about them. No matter what you tell them, there's a feeling that just the person's somewhere else. So it's a lost art, the art of trust. And the more we get technology savvy, the more screens we're behind, the more we lose it. And the game changer for any business is to harness this, grab it, because the human condition never changes.
No, it doesn't. We communicate different vehicles with communication, but the condition doesn't change.
I don't care what technology is coming our way, AI, SMS. I don't care about any of that. What gives me peace is to know that people will never change. They all want the same thing. And if you don't tap into that now with your business, pre-sale, marketing-wise, sales-wise, you're going to hit the commodity wall. You will not survive. It'll be a race to the bottom on prices, and you're going to struggle. And you'll struggle, and you wonder, what did I do wrong? Well, it'll be too late by then.
Yeah. That's crazy. So let me ask a loaded question for you. We've all been living through this crazy last year, 13 months, whatever, with COVID. How's that impacted your business?
We've been growing leaps and bounds because people are realizing now that trust is a new currency. Mm-hmm. That they know that money flows back and forth to companies and people they can trust. And if you aren't consciously putting that into your whole process, now, I'm not saying you're not trustworthy. People say, oh, I'm already trustworthy. We're already a good company. People like us. It's not about that. It's putting it in your communication, in verbally, SMS, email, social media. It's how you communicate. If it's not consciously the top of the priority in how you communicate with people, then they'll go somewhere else.
Okay, so I want to share with the audience here today. Before you came on the show a few days back, week back, I get a package, and listen, let me just tell you something. It was nice to have something come to my house for me, because I'm the least consumer of delivery packages to my house. So let's just put it that way. So with daughters and you know, all that kind of good stuff, no, I'm the least of the consumers. So I get this package, it's from you, and I unbox it, and there's all these books in there. So tell us a little bit about the stuff you've written. I mean, you've got quite a bit of a portfolio of some nice stuff.
So what you received there is called the Trust Box.
Okay. Loaded question.
And this is what we teach as well to our consulting clients, where you create a trust box that contains what I call trust assets. Mm-hmm. Not digital. Forget digital delivery. If you want to fight the battle in someone's inbox, good luck to you.
Yeah.
We go offline in the physical mail, where no one is anymore except for Domino's Pizza and a couple of vendors in your real estate area with brochures.
Sure.
We do physical assets, like a physical book that's sent to a potential client pre-sale for them to hold in their hand and consume, which builds what I call trusted authority positioning. We do what we call trust authority consulting for professionals to help them remove the pressure in advance of the first call, so you make the one call sale happen much easier if they're pre-sold in advance of the call. And the first word in authority is author. So we design these little trust assets, little mini books, not books for Amazon. Forget that concept.
Yeah, right.
But only enough for the ideal client to feel that you understand them. You'll see my books there. They basically contain content that does not provide the full solution, it just provides the problems. And the problems are enough for someone to say, this guy really understands me. He gets me. He resonates with me. And you can get one of my books on my website, Unlock the Sales Game. And you'll see for as an example of that. But the whole point here is, look, I grew up with the message that, Ari, you've got to be contrarian. If the whole world's going that direction, go that direction. So I learned if everyone's going online, where to go offline, where nobody's at.
Right.
But you got to be different. And that's why our approach is so different. Everything we do is the opposite of everyone else. And that's the only way to win the game, is to become what I call a category of one.
Okay. So what's the category one?
Where you're positioned as the only choice for your ideal client, because you're able to articulate their problems so clearly. You're the only one that can do that in your market.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, I could talk to you about hours because I'm a sales junkie. Ask my kids. But I love the whole process of sales. I study it. I love business development. It's just something, it's a science and stuff. So many people do it wrong. So many people it amazes me, so many companies that are sloppy with it. Just
That's
really
a great word. That's a great word. Sloppy they're losing so much money right now in their pipeline. If you ask a company how many leads you get per month, and of those, how many you convert, they're going to tell you 10, 20, 30%. And I say, what happened to the other 70? They go, oh, well, some were unqualified. Let's make it 50. What happened to the 50 that were qualified? Where'd they go? Oh, well, no, your team did not convert them for a reason. Not because of your product, because your approach is broken. You should be converting 75%, not 25%.
Right.
You got to fix your approach.
So we've been at this for a while. We always see swings in the pendulum. Let's talk about this for a moment. Right around the turn of the century, we had the whole .com rush. Okay, everybody thought everything was going to go online. Just everything's going to go online, and we had grocery.com and pet.com and all these people. Complete bust. I mean, it was a complete bust. Part of that, you could argue, was the technology was too early. There wasn't any trust to buy things online, okay? Because you mean I'm going to put my credit card in, right? Kind of thing. Billions and billions of dollars were invested. Things fell apart. People stayed in that way. Now we've gone the opposite direction to where companies are being pressured out of business due to the Amazon impact. Everybody's expecting these types of services that fill in gaps, but really in most of the times when you're doing that type of buying, you're not making any decisions per se. You're just at that purchase point, right? So we see swings of the pendulum back and forth. What do you see as the future? What's coming up? What do you think in your mind as you look at the whole sales process and business and understanding trends?
It's funny because I've been at this 20 years.
Yeah.
With the same message. The same message.
Okay. And it's on fire.
All these fluctuations. Ari, what's coming next? What's coming next? What's coming next?
It's the same.
What have you missed? I went to a seminar once. Someone said, the future is this. I said, and I raised my hand, what about the past that we haven't fixed yet? They don't want to talk about that, you see. It's too sexy. What I'm saying is you got to go backwards and fix the foundation of your home, the scaffolding, the basic relationship components of your sales process. Otherwise, no matter what you add on as a future technology or new idea, we'll get very little traction over time because you'll be burning through so much opportunity because you didn't really learn how to build trust first.
Sure. Well, looks like you put a lot of time and research on the psychology of this. Too many organizations are looking for that next gizmo to fix things, the next CRM system, the next up and coming superstar sales manager, that kind of stuff. It never really is the fix. It's always a Band-Aid approach.
You can't lose if you go back to the basics of human trust and connection.
No,
you're always safe in that place. You'll always make money and never have to worry ever again if you start your business from that perspective.
Fantastic. Okay, well, this has been very insightful, and I know my listeners have lots and lots of questions. So can you give out your websites and how to get a hold of you again?
Sure. Just go to unlockthegame.com.
Okay.
Join the one call sale program that'll onboard you into our membership group for those who want to poke around and get access to all my content and get an entry point level. Or if you're an entrepreneur, head of sales, or a professional advisor, and you want to jumpstart this whole thing, I think there's a free consult button on our website to apply to chat with me or one of my team members. Have a chat with us directly. Watch what we do and how we talk to you, and let us cut the noise for you and help you get past the chasing game, because you know what? It's dehumanizing, debilitating, and dysfunctional, and you shouldn't have to do that as a professional anymore.
Well, and as salespeople, if it's part of your profession, you should beg your organizations to do this, or if not, do it yourself, because nobody wants the financial rewards and the freedom that you have as a salesperson is phenomenal. And for me, it's the world's best profession. I love it. It's almost as much fun as doing the podcast stuff. But, unfortunately, too many people have a bad taste of perception in their mouths.
The world is begging you right now for trust.
Yeah.
And if you don't give that back to them and you're in your way through your business, just doing your normal business, unfortunately, the world has a way of letting people go that just don't make it.
Well, that's never been truer when we have these worlds where nobody can trust the media anymore. There's just, what is the version of the truth? I just say to people, if a media company could come out and just say, well, here's the facts, and here's how one side might see it, and here's how the other side might see it, but these are the facts, that would be the biggest media company in the whole world. But no, they all want to go and tell us things that aren't half truth and not truth. And
exactly.
So you're exactly right. Trust is in very, very short supply. All right. Well, listen, I have one more question for you, which I ask of all my guests. And if you've listened to any of my podcasts, you might know what's coming. So in this crazy day and age, we have this thing called a bucket list, things we want to go do. In fact, over there, not far from you, is our friend, the bucket list guy. And I didn't steal this from him. So, but there's always an opposite of everything in the universe. So there's an opposite list. It rhymes with bucket, starts with an F, but I'm not going to say it. Okay. So what might be something that would be on your F-it list? Something that Ari is just not signing up to do.
Not signing up to do?
Yep. Could be anything. You've taught us a lot about a lot of things.
I would never, ever chase a lead.
Oh my goodness. That's a new one. See,
in fact, as we end this now, I'm going to drop a big bomb.
Okay, let's do.
I'm going to ask your listeners to remove one key phrase forever from their vocabulary. And for those who've been in sales for a long time, this might hurt just a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
I'm going to ask you all to never again, as of today, post Ari, use the phrase follow-up ever again.
Wow.
Don't ever use it on an email or a phone call ever again. What's the only industry in the world that uses the word follow-up? Sales.
That's right.
Follow-up, touching base, checking in. These are all 1970s sales languaging that says to somebody, oh, here he calls again. He's calling to move things, follow up, high and kind of run to follow up on their never again use that word. You're killing trust.
Yeah.
Here's what you say instead. We have all the sales scenarios by language you've written out in our program. Here's a sample of it. What you say instead is you say, I'm giving you a call to see if you have any feedback on our previous conversation.
That's great.
Feedback on our last meeting. Feedback on our proposal. Feedback on my email. Feedback's going backwards, away from the sale, not follow up towards sale. When you say to somebody feedback, you would be shocked what happens. They start talking and you're like, oh my God, this guy was right. So I have figured out every language element in selling that's killing your sales right now, converted that into what I call trust-based languaging. That's a little sample to tease you all to come find me.
Well, I can tell you folks, I'm sitting behind the mic and you're somebody who thought he was a seasoned professional, and I have learned a ton here today. Thank you very much for coming on and being so generous with your time.
Thank you for being open to hearing my different ideas.
No, I think you're awesome. You're on to some great things, and it looks like you've been on them for a long time. There just need more people to be doing it. But Boy, I tell you who's going to be on your website when we get to finish here this evening. Be somebody sitting here. But again, thank you very much, Ari, for coming on. I really appreciated the time, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people getting in touch with you. And thank you for sharing that with us today.
I hope this hour and a half changes people's lives, and I hope they realize that it's time to deprogram and de-brainwash from the old cult of sales and become yourself again and be who you are.
I appreciate it. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Okay, folks, we're going to call that a wrap for this week's episode, or this day's episode. Thank you for the opportunity to dial in with us. Don't forget to stop by the show website, rexandrewshow.com. Definitely we'll have quite a bit of information there from Ari on the website. So until next time, I just have the 3 things we always say: be safe, be bold, and make it a great day.